Just because Angel Reese is a black woman doesn't mean that a black man or a black woman who happens to be an analyst can't give their opinion on her game. Just because Angel Reese is a black woman doesn't mean that a black man or a black woman cannot critique her game. To be quite frank, a black man or a black woman can critique.
Shaq just threw Angel Reese under the bus. Yes, it's real. Shaquille O'Neal, the NBA legend, Reebok exec, and Angel Reese's biggest corporate backer, just called out his own athlete, claiming she profited off Caitlin Clark's fame. That's not a rumor. That's from Shaq's own mouth. What was supposed to be support has now turned into a public shadow, and fans are sounding off. Did Shaq expose Reese? Did he admit she's only relevant because of Clark? Or is this just brutal honesty in the age of brand wars? Let's break down the 5 moments that turned Reese's business alliance into full-blown controversy.
Okay, so if you just go and do a little bit of research, it'll actually show you that last year in particular, the WNBA was estimated to lose around $40 million across the board. One of its largest losses ever. And on a regular basis, the WNBA has been losing annually, on average, roughly about $10 million a year. Now, you can deep dive into this. It has multiple different sources.
The moment Shaquille O'Neal said the words, it was like a bomb dropped on the WNBA. In a behind-the-scenes segment on his Netflix series Power Moves, Shaq told Reebok execs point-blank that they needed Angel Reese in Reebok gear when she plays Caitlin Clark. Not if, not someday, but when. Translation? We need to market Reese through Clark. Let that sink in. Shaq, who handpicked Reese as the face of Reebok's revival, is saying her value skyrockets only when Clark is in the picture. Whether he meant it maliciously or not, it read like this. Angel Reese is cashing in on Clark's popularity. Fans didn't miss the implication. What was supposed to be business strategy turned into a shot fired. It was no longer about Angel standing tall on her own. It was about her riding the wave of the WNBA's biggest star. And when that idea came from Shaq himself, it shook the entire sports marketing landscape. Social media wasted zero time. X, formerly Twitter, lit up with hot takes, memes, and straight-up roasts. Angel Reese owes Caitlin Clark rent. Her whole shoe deal depends on Clark's shadow. Shaq just said out loud what we've all been thinking. It was ruthless, and it wasn't just Clark fans. It was everyone calling out the power imbalance. The takeaway was brutal. People started seeing Reese not as a standalone star, but as someone who's coasting off someone else's hype. That's not just bad PR, that's a brand crisis. Once the public starts thinking your relevance depends on your rival, your independence as a star is shot. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just some media-created feud. This perception came directly from within her own business circle. That stings more than any fan tweet. Because when your top endorser starts feeding the narrative that you're not enough without your rival, that's not partnership. That's public exposure.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, look, y'all can say whatever you want about the Bayou Barbie, but I'm happy for her. She's on the WNBA version of 2K26, but there was an Easter egg that people didn't catch until she said something. Her shoes are in the cover. How else would you make a great release like this but to not have her new shoes on the cover before they drop? Now let's give this beautiful young lady her flowers and let us see the beautiful AR1s that Angel Reese and Reebok are releasing. And for her first shoe, I'm happy that she's finally getting it out there. Hands down. I'm glad the first colorway is, cold and, shiny, but I want to see the next colorways. Like, I'm here for it. Let me know how y'all feel about this in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, check out the channel, and don't forget to share the video.
If there was ever a time Angel Reese needed her camp to back her up, it was now. Instead, Shaq's comment came like a wrecking ball right when the foundation was already shaking. Reese is no stranger to criticism, but lately it's been building. From the Reebok campaign that leaned on Caitlin Clark's image, to fans constantly pairing her success with Clark's rise, the narrative has shifted from admiration to association. She's no longer being celebrated alone, she's being measured by Clark's shadow. And just as Reese begins building her identity in the WNBA, breaking records, putting up double-doubles, earning all-star attention, here comes Shaq, the face of her endorsement world, confirming the worst assumption, that she's not the driver of her own success, that she's dependent on someone else's star power to shine. That stings deeper than any fan tweet. That's a shot from the inside. The backlash wasn't just aimed at the words, it was about timing. Reese was just starting to stabilize her public image. She had already overcome being the villain of the LSU versus Iowa college rivalry. She had started turning heads on the pro stage. But now? Shaq's comment poured doubt right back into the conversation. What could have been a momentum boost turned into a full PR detour. Now, instead of talking about her rebounds, her hustle, her defensive presence, we're all talking about whether she's piggybacking off Clark's wave. It's a total derailment of her narrative, and one that came from the last person she expected, the executive who's supposed to be guiding her growth. Let's unpack the bigger issue here: control. Because when Shaquille O'Neal speaks, it's not just a former player giving his opinion, it's the president of Reebok, the guy paying Reese, the man who's supposed to be crafting her future. And when that man publicly ties her success to someone else's name,
man, it's been quite a week or so for Angel Reese, named a WNBA All-Star for the second consecutive year. Just made WNBA history, 5 straight games with 15 or more rebounds. She just announced her first signature shoe with Reebok, which I imagine she'll debut during the All-Star game. And she was also named a cover athlete for NBA 2K26. So that's a lot right there.
it raises real questions about who's actually steering the ship. On the surface, Shaq's move might have been business-minded. Maybe he thought it was strategic. Maybe he saw the Clark-Reese matchup as a viral moment. But whether intentional or not, what he did was strip Reese of her independence in the eyes of the public. He turned a two-way rivalry into a one-way dependency, and that hits especially hard when it comes from your own boss. Let's not forget, Reese signed with Reebok to build something powerful, to be the face of a women's sports resurgence, to represent a new wave of athletic empowerment. But now fans are asking, is she being built up or puppeteered? It's an ugly question, but a necessary one. Because if the message coming out of Reebok is that Reese can't thrive without Clark, then what happens when Clark isn't in the picture? Does her value drop? Is her brand still prioritized? These aren't hypotheticals, they're real risks. And for an athlete like Reese, who built her entire college identity on being unapologetically self-made, this undercurrent of control cuts deep. The power dynamic has been exposed. The question now becomes, can Reese truly lead her own brand, or is she still being managed in the shadows of someone else's narrative? So, here we are. The viral moment happened. The public heard Shaq loud and clear. Now the ball is squarely in Angel Reese's court. And this, right now, is her defining pivot point. This isn't just about responding to a slip-up. It's about taking back the narrative, refusing to be the supporting cast, and proving that her name, her talent, her voice stand alone.
That you see in solidarity is basically WNBA players with their new bargaining agreement that they're trying to land. It's basically telling the NBA, because those are the people that actually subsidize the WNBA, right? They're an offshoot of the men's league. They're basically telling the leagues that they want more money. They want a larger piece of the revenue that is generated. Now,
first things first. The next thing Reese says and does matters more than ever. She doesn't need to call out Shaq directly, but she needs to pivot hard. She needs to separate her identity from this narrative of Clark dependence once and for all. That means dropping a solo campaign that screams authenticity. Not one built around rivalry, not one built around a matchup, but one built around her journey. She could launch a mini-doc or YouTube series, real, gritty, personal, Behind the scenes from training to game day. Title it something powerful like All Me or The Grind Is Mine. Show her growth. Show her mental battles. Show her rebounds, her workouts, her leadership, her life off the court. Take fans inside her world so they stop seeing her as the other one and start seeing her as a one of one. And on the court, she needs to go nuclear. Every game now is a statement opportunity. Dominate the boards. Talk your talk. Win with swagger and let the scoreboard speak. This is no longer about being louder. It's about being undeniable, but most importantly, she needs to build outside of the system. Angel Reese has the following, the presence and the reach to build her own brand, her own clothing line, her own podcast, her own production deals. She doesn't need to wait for Reebok or Shaq or anyone else to position her. She can position herself. When she takes that step, she's not just a WNBA player, she's a movement. Because here's the truth. Every great athlete has a moment when they stop letting people define them and start defining themselves. This is that moment for Angel Reese. If she embraces it, we won't remember Shaq's quote. We'll remember how she flipped it into the greatest power move of her career.
It says in the NBA, which owns the WNBA, that's why I said that they're asking it from the NBA, has historically covered league losses, which are estimated to be around $10 million a year. The NBA directly subsidizes the WNBA due to its ownership, and its losses are estimated to be around $40 million annually. Now, how are they able to do this? Because the NBA, the men, the interest in the NBA is so large and it's so great that, you know, they are able to land lucrative deals, lucrative contracts, lucrative streaming agreements with multiple different providers. There's a bidding war for NBA